Hello, today we'll learn what Lithuanians think about refugees and immigrants in Lithuania. Hello, so the first question is, what's your view of how migrants are treated in Lithuania? Do you think that the state is doing enough or maybe too little for their integration?
I think my personal opinion, I'm not very specified in the whole refugees or immigrants theme, but I think many different people have different views on it, and it's depending on where you're at. For example, maybe in the capital it's more often to see immigrants. I'm not sure if they are being treated with enough maybe respect, depending on what their race is, because many people have different views, I think. And I think when I see immigrants or refugees, I don't see how well they're being treated. So I personally just don't have enough information about it. But I think the ones that I do see, or maybe occasionally have an interaction, from my civilian perspective, I think I treat them with enough respect. I give them directions if they ask for something. I think it really depends on the people. And the government, I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah. What about you?
For me, it's a little bit difficult to comment because I am from a small town. So there we basically do not have any immigrants or people of different ethnicity or nationality. So it's not often that I am faced with such reality, and I still think a lot of people have a lot of stigma. They see a person of different race and they immediately assume that they are using the country's resources or whatever without doing anything, and obviously often that's not the reality.
How migrants are treated in Lithuania? Do you think that the state is doing enough or maybe too little on this issue?
I think it depends on what kind of migration it is, because there is forced migration when people can't choose where they go and they really need the help. And then there's migration where people are just bored in their country or don't think they have enough opportunities, and then they go out of their country from their will. And for me personally, I think the first kind is acceptable and to be welcomed, and we need to help these people. But the people who are just here as gold diggers and looking for money, looking for job opportunities, I think that there should be more laws constricting how to behave as a foreign worker. For example, if you work in a shop, you should know the native language. If you deliver food, you still should know the native language. If you drive on the streets, you should know the driving rules. So it more comes down to how willing the migrant is to settle in the country's system. And it's, in my opinion, it's not acceptable that a migrant comes with his own system and says, I'm going to live here just as I live back home.
Do you personally have a different view of how immigrants are treated from a more closer countries to Lithuania, as for example Ukraine, and immigrants that live far away, as for example Morocco or Egypt and other countries? What is your personal opinion on this?
I think maybe the main difference would be, the first thing that comes to my mind is also the language, because if a refugee comes from Ukraine, I think it's also because of the war situation. We have way more support in ourselves because we've been through war. We know what it's like. It's not something that we would wish on anyone. And since the situation is so rough and many people are aware of it, I think we're showing more support towards them. And also, I think since they speak they often can speak Russian, and many Lithuanians, I think, kind of know Russian since our parents or our grandparents have taught us it, and it's kind of implicated in our everyday, and slang or something like that, we can communicate often better, especially older people. And maybe if immigrants are coming from like long distance from like Morocco or even America, I think the language becomes more difficult for older people, but less difficult for younger. And we often, I think many people can have stereotypical opinions about them, that they just, as my friend said, they're using the country's resources, maybe like they're coming here for fun, and it's not forced on them to come to our country, because, for example, war is kind of a situation where you have nowhere to go. So maybe it's less support, but I think it really depends on the person. And when you don't know the situation, you can't really judge it. You cannot assume.